In financial decision-making, investment behaviors reveal distinct patterns between women and men. Contrary to the traditional view of women as more risk-averse, recent insights suggest a more complex picture. Women's investment choices are influenced by various factors, including socioeconomic status, knowledge of investment products, and life circumstances. The composition of investment teams also shows interesting trends. In impact investing, for example, female investors demonstrate greater risk-taking, especially when focusing on social impact ventures. The perception of women as inherently more cautious in financial matters is undergoing a transformation. Research indicates that women, when provided with the right opportunities and knowledge, can exhibit risk-taking behaviors similar to their male counterparts. This evolving understanding of gender dynamics is essential for developing tailored financial services. Acknowledging these differences not only leads to more effective financial advice, but also fosters inclusivity in the world of investments, catering to the unique strengths and needs of both women and men. So this, expected risk aversion has come up already. Mariko, you managed a team of portfolio managers and analysts. How do you perceive the differences in investment behavior between men and women? And what implications do these have on managing one's own finances and for the financial industry? I know that's a lot.
Right. All right. I'm going to give you a short answer this time. So I think, I should just tell you the story because I have a storage unit, right? And the guy who owns the storage unit, because I still haven't gotten rid of enough stuff, it's a boomer problem. And he likes to day trade. So I was asking him about the community and so on, and what the demographics were, and the men and women and so on, and it's mostly men, et cetera. And he said, because women are so much more emotional than men when it comes to investing. And I was like, stop right there, George. You have this so wrong, right? And then he got the lecture. And there's this idea that women are going to be too emotional. God forbid you should buy or sell a stock during your period or something. I don't know where people get these crazy ideas. And in fact, it turns out that men tend to be the one to be itchy finger. They need the compulsion for action, right? And the impatience, the sort of that women tend to be better long-term investors because they tend to sort of stick with the plan. Again, gross generalizations, right? But they tend to sort of stick with the plan. They tend to do a little bit more research. They're more patient. There's less of a need to sort of take action. They get less their egos. I'm gonna go right out there and say it, right? Are less less involved with whether things are whether their portfolio is going up or down, and that makes it they're better investors that way. I think, again, gross generalizations, but this ability to not take action is just randomly compelling, kind of like the sort of social media scrolling that we have to, the compulsion, right? If you can harness that compulsion, you're going to be a better long-term investor. You're going to be more diversified. You're not going to fall for fear of missing out. You're not going to go with the latest thing that people are bragging about at the golf course, that kind of thing. Having said that, though, I have heard recently of two guys who were regular Joes, like working, linemen for a utility company and working their way up, that would get their statements. They would put the money away as much as they could, and they just wouldn't look at them. They never opened them so that they would never be tempted to take unnecessary action. And at all, like over literally like 30 years. And then when it got close to that time, opening up the statement and, seeing that they were worth, I don't know, 2.5 million, 3.2 million, something like that. Right. So it was an interesting, and this is, I've heard two of these stories recently. So this idea that you can create habits that help support you to counteract our human psychology, our desire to do things, is an interesting one. And in those cases, those two happen to be men, but it's so just to balance out my stories here.
Yeah, I think for the majority of people, when it comes to investing, less is more. As a side note, I think my wife is a better trader than me because she tends to be more active and her actions are usually pretty correct. Her timing seems to be good, to her credit. Stefanie, what misconceptions about women in investing do you encounter most frequently?
Well, to your point, there's definitely this perception that women have no risk tolerance, and what we see again in the studies is that women will self-identify even as having low risk tolerance. She knows it's my turn to speak, so I think that's why she's piping up here. She's been quite quiet the rest
I
of
timed
this.
it perfectly.
Oh my goodness. So my point being that there was this analysis by the investing app Stash of their customers, and they found that 90% of women Stash users self-identified as having a low or medium risk tolerance compared to 75% of men. But the numbers don't line up with their actual investment behaviors. About 50% of women invested in higher risk investments on Stash, which was the same rate as men. And this is reflected in meta-analysis of economic studies across the board, that these differences in risk tolerance between men and women are negligible and more likely to do with self-perception than actual behavior. So that to me says, what is the consequences of these narratives and myths that women are not confident, women are risk averse, women are not engaged with their finances? The consequences is that we're hearing this message and we're starting to internalize it. And that's where I think we really need to be aware of not just the myths, but how we are responding to them.
It's really interesting data to see that difference. And I guess it goes to show the importance of having a community where
Absolutely.
women can speak to one another, compare notes, and say, oh, maybe I'm not that risk averse. I'm doing fine.
I see that in a lot of the women business owners I teach, where they're like, oh, I just don't understand this stuff, and they are complete badasses. And part of the great joy in my job is to show them how well they're running their businesses and how well they understand what's going on in their businesses. But there's such a gap between the perception of somehow how that should feel if you're doing it well and how the actual doing it well looks like.
I think that what you just said, Mariko, is important because it's this feeling thing. Because what I've found in the studies I've done on women and gender and things is that for the most part, this again is a generalization, most women don't have this sense of confidence. And in fact, that's not that important for a woman because they tend to have a little more holistic way of looking at things. They're more systemic thinkers. They can see if I do this, this will happen. They can see the implications of things. But because they can see all of that, they never feel completely like 100% certain that this is how it is. They don't feel that surety. And they're finding out that even that sense of certainty isn't really that you're certain. It's actually an emotion that you're feeling that has nothing to do with being right or not. So there's something about how women have more sensing in gender, and of course, this goes across genders in different ways. They have a deeper sense of sensing and can feel things differently. So they never feel like 100%, this is it, but they can live with a little bit more ambiguity with that. And what we found is more important is what the studies are showing is rather than self-confidence about it is self-efficacy, that belief in yourself, believe that you can. I might be scared, I might be nervous, I might be a little freaked out, I might be whatever, but I can do this. I have capacity, I'm capable to go with that. And I think the other point that I wanted to, and you put this out in the very beginning, Andy, but really looking at what women invest in, their values sometimes can be different. I'm kind of friends with Mohammed Yunus and really talking to him about micro investing and the Grameen Bank and what he looked at just overall and the investing they did with women all over the world is that when they invested in women, what women then invested in were things that actually contributed to the community, to the world around them, not just themselves, certainly their families, but it helped the community. So their values are something greater than just their own amassing their own wealth for whatever if we could call that ego or whatever. It's more about how can I serve my family? How can I serve my community? The values are different in the kinds of things that they invest in, and their investments oftentimes, in my experience, Mariko and Stefanie know more, tend to really, those values matter to them. What's going to make a difference? So that I have found is a gender difference.
And I think also that, especially in business, running your business in accordance to your values that may not sort of be textbook kind of, kind of finance bro, kind of, on paper, the optimal way to do it, right? Can be shamed, can cause a lot of shame that somehow you're doing it wrong. And it's you don't have to go for the last nickel or optimize for the best return in the short term. You can have a different set of how you look at things, and part of it is part of the lesson is, okay, over the long haul, you want a sustainable business, you do need to have positive free cash flow, but really you get to run the business in accordance with your values. If you just do that, you get to choose. It's your business, you get to smash, it's your party, smash the pinata however you want to, but there's this sense of shame that somehow you're doing it wrong, and because you're not doing it in this textbook way, which can be very extractive, very exploitative, just not kind of a humane form of capitalism that would still work, but is looking at things in a broader, that we're all in this together, on this planet, and somehow we're going to have to make it. It really bothers me when I see that being used to sort of shame, shame people who are trying to do business differently.
Love that. Smash that piñata any way you want to.
Right.
Let's bring it home and go to segment 5.